During the last Sephora sale, I picked up several foundations to try. So first I tried the Myricks Beauty Complexion Stick. I will link that video so you could check it out. I also tried out the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Foundation, and spoiler alert, that has become one of my new favorite foundations. I will link that review as well. And today I am trying the third and final foundation that I picked up, which is the LYS Beauty. This is their Triple Fix Serum Foundation. And this is with hyaluronic acid, turmeric, and ashwagandha. It's another cruelty-free and vegan foundation, and this is one of the most affordable foundations at Sephora. So another reason I'm very excited to try it out is to have some more affordable options. This one is also supposed to be a skincare-like foundation, which has light to medium coverage. Now, I typically prefer a more medium coverage. However, I still like it to look very natural. So as long as it gives enough coverage, I'm okay with light to medium. Today, as always, we're going to try one side of the face with a foundation brush and the other side with a damp beauty sponge. And this foundation on the packaging here does say to apply it with either a sponge or a brush. So let's go ahead and get into it. So here is what the packaging looks like. This is a glass bottle with a pump, and it's a nice weighty bottle. It's this triangular shape that you have going on, and I have the shade LN6. It says to shake well before use, so I'm going to do that, and let's get started. On the left side of my face, I will be applying it with a BK Beauty 101 brush, and then on the other side, I will be using a damp beauty sponge. I'm going to zoom you in so you can really see the full skin here. Now we're a little more zoomed in. My skin is prepped and moisturized and ready to go. So let's take a look at the consistency of this foundation. I'm sure it will be somewhat watery because it is a serum foundation, so it should be quite liquidy. Do 2 pumps here. So you can see it is quite a thin, runny consistency, not the most runny ever. So it does have a little bit of catch to it. I'm going to go in on the left side with my BK Beauty 101 brush. This foundation claims to be undetectable and instantly diffuse the look of dark spots, pores, fine lines, and imperfections without masking your skin's natural beauty. That is quite a claim. It does have a slight scent to it, not like a fragrance scent, just like the ingredients. It's not pleasant, it's not unpleasant. It seems to be dissipating quite quickly. I'm just checking the packaging to see if it does have any fragrance. It doesn't appear that it has any fragrance in the ingredients. All right, so here is the left side of the face done. The right side of the face obviously has no product on it. The color might be a tad light for me, but I think with some bronzer and some other makeup products, I can make it work. I could probably go up a shade. I will let you know if it does oxidize, and if it does, then it actually probably will be a good shade and I wouldn't need to go any darker. I do have quite dry skin and it is of course maturing, but even though it is a serum foundation, it doesn't seem to be particularly hydrating. It does not feel drying on the skin, but it does kind of still have a slight look of dryness on my dry skin. You do see some glowiness, but it's not a very luminous foundation, and there's still some luminosity to my skin. The coverage is light to medium, as it says more on the light than medium side, but I can still see some coverage. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it emphasized fine lines, but I don't think it's doing anything for them, which it claims to do, especially around the mouth line and even some smaller fine lines around the eyebrow. Let's go ahead and move to the sponge side. So I have my damp sponge here, and let's apply it. This is what it looks like with the damp sponge. It looks like pretty much nothing on my skin. I would absolutely not apply it this way. It doesn't do anything as far as coverage. I also want to say that I do feel like it has oxidized some, and I wouldn't go any darker because then I will start to get a line of demarcation between my neck and jaw. And of course, you always do want to bring your foundation down, but it would be quite a drastic difference, I think, if I jumped up in color. So I think this is actually the correct shade for me. If you like the look of really no makeup, you might like this. It is pretty much undetectable when applied with the damp sponge. But personally for me, I don't like it at all, and I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can build some up with the brush on this side of the face. I pumped out 2 pumps to get started. I pumped out another pump here to try to add a little more coverage now on this side of the face. Now I've evened up the face using the brush on both sides, and I do like the look of this a lot better. I think it's actually still pretty skin-like in its quality, so I appreciate that. I do want to try, I've got a little bit more left, and I do want to try to see if I can build up the coverage from a more light to medium coverage. Before I build up the coverage, I do want to point out that usually my cheeks look pretty smooth. I don't have a lot of texture. I feel like this is actually kind of emphasizing texture that isn't normally emphasized, that doesn't normally even show. Well, here goes nothing for adding a little more. See if we get any more coverage. I regret this decision because I feel like it is making even more texture, especially around my chin and my lips, and really emphasizing just any movement lines in my face, whether they're wrinkles or fine lines. Just when your face moves, it looks like buildup into those lines, and it's too thick with a second coating. So I don't actually feel that it got that much more coverage. It just looks a little bit thicker and not very good. It's like giving me a real wrinkle line there that I don't normally, I mean, obviously my face moves, so it's there, but it's not usually emphasized with makeup. Using that second coat just made it look thick and a little cakey, a little heavy. So don't build it. Don't try to build it. I appreciate that it doesn't feel like much on my skin. It's a thin serum foundation, so it doesn't feel heavy or cakey. However, it looks a lot heavier than it feels, and not in a good way. It looks like I have caked on a lot more than I have. Now I've zoomed out so you can really get a whole perspective on it. I think it looks fine. It doesn't look terrible. It's definitely not one of the worst foundations I've ever tried, but it's also not one of the best. I feel like it looks okay, but it could definitely look better. And I don't think it's the best foundation for someone with dry skin. Perhaps if you were more normal or oily, you might like this better. It might not look quite so much like powdered over the top, even without being powdered over. I do still have some luminosity to the skin, so it's not completely matte, but I have almost uneven luminosity where it's much more luminous around the eyes and a little on the forehead, maybe a little on the chin, but not a lot. So overall, it's already looking kind of heavy, so I'm afraid to powder it down, but I feel like it definitely needs to be powdered, especially under the eyes and maybe a little bit between the eyes and around the mouth and chin, because I do feel like it is slip sliding around everywhere and not staying in place. So I am going to go ahead and try to powder it down and then go on with the wear test. I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the other products that I picked up during the Sephora sale in the Merit bronzer stick and the Merit blush. Since this is a fairly light coverage foundation, I'm going to try it with some lighter sheer products to see how well it works together. So I'm going to do that, and then I will powder with my Kosas Cloud Set powder to make sure it doesn't transfer more than I feel like it's kind of slip sliding around. But I want to do these cream products before I powder, so we'll do the cream products, powder, I'll show you how it looks, and then we'll come back and check in later and see how it wears. I'm just going to use a little bit of the bronzer on the cheeks and forehead, a little on the chin line. I'll skip the nose today. I'm going to use an It Cosmetics, this is KER 50W foundation brush, just to blend this in. And this product does blend out very easily. It is also very sheer, so it looks good, but it doesn't give you a lot of pigment, a lot of definition. However, it works great for a lighter makeup, lighter foundation, such as this. This is not looking good. It is blending away, but it is getting kind of patchy on the foundation and not blending the most evenly. And granted, it is a cream product that I put right onto the foundation and didn't apply to the brush first. However, I have been using these products like that, and it hasn't been moving my foundation around, but it seems, like I said, this foundation is really slip slidey and moving around, so I feel like it is moving the foundation with the bronzer. Let's try it with the blush. I'm going to go right on the face, because this is how I've been using it with other products, and it has been working with other products. So if it doesn't work with this one, that's another point off for this one. It worked okay for the blush. I didn't have too much problems with it moving for the blush. I'm going to go do my eyebrows off camera, come back and powder, and then we'll see where we end up. I'm back with my eyebrows done. I used the About Face Brow Artist pencil, which I recently featured in a video. I've really been enjoying this for lighter makeup days. And then I also just put on a little of the Merit lipstick in the shade Millennial, so that my lips aren't completely foundationed out. And here I've brought the Kosas Cloud Set powder in the shade Feathery to powder this down to hopefully keep it from moving around. And I will be applying it with a puff. And I'm just going to apply a little bit to try to keep it from sliding around quite so much. I feel like it's sliding a lot. This is that Kosas powder. I really like this powder. I feel like it's very blurring. I'm going to do some around the nose and also above the lip and on the chin. And a little under the eyes. So here's where we ended up with the application with the powder on top. I will check in a little while to let you know how it's wearing, but so far it is not one of my favorites, and I would definitely try it again, but it's not anywhere in my top 5. I'm back to check in on the LYS Serum Foundation. It's been a few hours since I first applied it, and it has since set and dried down all the way. You saw I put a little powder over the top, but not too much. It has dried down a little bit on my dry skin, that it's to the point where it's starting to look a little bit dry. And as I was saying, it is kind of emphasizing lines in my face, not even just wrinkles, but movement lines and things like that in my face. So it's emphasizing those more than most foundations I wear. It is nice and lightweight and it doesn't really feel like anything on the skin, but I have to say it's just not looking that great. And I even felt a little self-conscious wearing it because I felt like where it's dried down, it's almost like a powder over the top of my skin. And we were out in the natural light and I asked my husband, I said, I'm trying this new foundation and what do you think? And he said it looked kind of like it was dotty on my nose, which is where the dryness is. So I do have like a scratch that's healing over on my nose. So there is, of course, that, which I can't, that's not the foundation's fault, but the rest of the nose still kind of has that dotted appearance. And that's really that dryness that's kind of setting on top of the skin. So with all of that said, if you don't have dry skin, this might work better for you. And it's nice and lightweight and it's a light to medium coverage, but for me, it's just not going to cut it for the other options that are out there. I think that what I really don't like is that it kind of settles into lines and emphasizes lines and texture on the face. So far, this is just not going to cut it for me. I will come back and check in. It hasn't really worn off in any places, and I still have some luminosity to my skin on my cheeks, but definitely the forehead and lip area is looking dry and more textured. So I will check in one final time to let you know if it's been wearing off evenly throughout the day. Like I said, it hasn't really worn off, but it's just kind of continued to set down and dry and been even less flattering on the face. So it could work for you. This one is just not working for me. I'll zoom in and let you look up close. It's really making a lot of texture lines around my face that are, of course, there, but it's really emphasizing them and showing them. You can really see around the lip and around the chin, around the nose. It's really dotty. Here I said I have a scratch, so ignore that. And then on the forehead. So like I said, unfortunately, this one is just gonna be a miss for me. LYS Beauty Serum Foundation. This is the final check-in. The foundation has been on for about 8 hours at this point now. Not the longest ever, but it's the end of my day, so I put it on a little later today. And it did not wear off really throughout the day at all. It has stayed in place quite well. Unfortunately, it has continued throughout the day to dry down further and further and just get more dry and almost separate from the skin and become a layer on top of it and not mix in with it as the day's gone on. So when I'm not looking like super close up in the mirror, it doesn't look too bad. When I am inspecting it, you can really see it has settled into some fine lines, and not even just settled, but like dried and almost crusted might be a bit harsh a word, but it definitely dried and cracked in some of the lines. And like I said, it's separated and really dried on top of certain areas of the face. So longevity wise, wearing wise, it actually did last. I will give it credit for that. But unfortunately, I think especially for dry skin, it just is too drying. Even though serum foundations are usually a pretty safe bet for dry skin, this one is just not going to do it. If you apply it with a damp sponge, it's like doing nothing to the skin. So I highly recommend applying it with a brush if you're going to try it out. When I'm not too far away, it doesn't look too bad. And it's kind of a satin finish. It's somewhere in between. It's not really matte, and it's not luminous either. It's somewhere in between. So perhaps if those things appeal to you and you don't have dry skin, then you might consider checking this one out. But overall, for dry skin and for me, this one unfortunately is just not my favorite. It's going to be a no from me for this one. I definitely wouldn't repurchase it. How many stars would I give this one? Overall, my star rating for this one would probably be 3 stars. maybe even 2.5, which is actually one of the lowest star reviews I've ever given. Granted, this is one of the lowest priced foundations at Sephora, and it might actually be the lowest price foundation at Sephora. It's not quite drugstore price, and I have drugstore foundations that perform better, and at that price point, it's kind of in between. So I would either just save some money and go for the drugstore, where you can find foundations that perform even better for lower price, or I would spend a little more and get a foundation, a more high-end or prestige foundation that performs better for the price. I really wanted to like this one, but unfortunately I didn't. If you've tried this foundation, I would love to know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you haven't, let me know what you think based on my wear test. Does it sound like it might be something that would work for you? What do you think of how it looks? So I'm going to close out the video today with all that. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this review and wear test, give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you. I will be back next week with another video, but until then, take care of yourself.